Oh. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. Welcome back to season two of the Hurdle the Line review show, sponsored by Fantasy Game Day, where every week we break down all the games, talk about all the storylines from the NFL. Joining me today, my amazing co-host Tom. We are unfortunately without our favorite American Chapman, who usually hosts these. He was unable to make it today because he's actually over in the States. Was able to watch the Falcons Week One game, but that doesn't matter. Let's jump straight into it, Tom. How happy
Yep.
were you for the NFL to be back? I know obviously it was slightly dimmed pretty early with your team playing in one of the earlier games. But
Yep.
how happy were you in general for the NFL to be back?
I was very happy. Yeah, very happy. Glad I got to watch the game with you, even with the result. So that was good fun. But yeah, it's great to have the NFL back. And it was a exciting Sunday slate as well. So there wasn't a lot of absolutely terrible games, which sometimes in week one you do get some duds. But yeah, generally some really good games, and look forward to getting into it.
Yep. We, of course, kicked off the season, as you mentioned, a little bit earlier before we got to the Sunday slate with the reigning Super Bowl champions, Philadelphia Eagles, taking on the Dallas Cowboys in a game that I think a lot of people probably thought was going to be quite one-sided, but actually was a much better game, shall we say, than a lot of people expected. You know, the Cowboys had quite a lot of chances to actually go and win this game, with obviously multiple drops at the end from CD. He had four drops in total on this game. 24-20 was the final score. Tom, what were your thoughts watching this in the kind while reveling in the joy of the NFL finally being back?
Yeah, I think it was one of those kind of feeling out sort of games, I think. What proved was in the first half at halftime it was 21-20, and then there was only three more points in the rest of the game. But it was a good game. It started out quite, I mean the season started out quite crazily with Jalen Carter spitting on Dak Prescott
Yes.
and then getting ejected basically straight away. So, the Eagles losing their best defender straight at the start of the game definitely impacted their game plan and what they would have wanted to do and limited them somewhat. But they still managed to get out with the win, which is most important when you're starting out the season. Saquon Barkley had a relatively quiet night, but he did get a touchdown. He did have a nice one-handed catch as well. As you said, the Cowboys played very well in this game, especially Dak Prescott. He looked very poised in the pocket, finding receivers. The Eagles defense didn't look too great against the pass. But that might just be a week one sort of anomaly, and they from here on out they dominate. But it looked like they were missing a veteran presence at the back, with letting Darius Slay, big play Slay go. And just with the Cowboys as well, it looked like they were missing, athletic linebacker to be able to take down Jalen Hurts, who had multiple different runs for first downs. They didn't spy him a lot, and he made them pay, really. Two rushing touchdowns for Jalen Hurts. And as you said, CD Lamb towards the end of the game, he had a very good first half, over 100 yards. But everything kind of came crumbling down in the third and the fourth quarter with four drops. Some of them harder than others, but he did have one. I believe it was third down, and if they pick it up, then they're putting themselves in a great position to win the game. And he dropped that one, unfortunately, for the Cowboys. But I think the Cowboys would take a lot of pride in their performance, in how they played in the Eagles tough. And it was just one of those kind of back and forth starts to the season where the Eagles kind of eked it out, and I'm sure they'll get better as the season goes along.
Yeah, if I had told you before this game the Cowboys would hold Saquon Barkley to 60 rushing yards, and only 24 receiving yards, they would only allow 24 combined receiving yards from AJ Brown and Devontae Smith, and Jalen Hurts threw zero touchdowns, you would probably think that Dallas won this game. But as you said, Jalen Hurts doing everything other than throwing touchdowns that you need to do to win a game. Um, a lot of people can. There's all off season. There was the talk about Jalen Hurts. I think we do this every off season now. The whole kind of like it gets all the engagement by talking about him not being a top five quarterback and all of this stuff. And we can argue all day. I don't think either me or you think he's a top five quarterback in terms of talent by any means. But in the end of the day, he's a winning quarterback, and I think there's this this negative idea of. I mean, there's a negative idea of checkdowns, but the negative
Mm.
idea of you know operating within a system and the game manager stuff. But in the end of the day, if you can pick up third downs and you can convert on your drives, then you're going to win football games. And that's what Jalen Hurts does. And that's what he continues to do in this game as well. You mentioned, obviously, we saw a lot of points in the first half. And then we actually had a delay in this game,
Yeah,
a
for
weather delay.
weather, yeah, to do with the lightning that was happening around Philadelphia.
Yep.
So
And unfortunately, I fell asleep for
I
the
fell asleep during that time. So
Yeah, so Tom was fortunate because Tom watched the good part of the game and then fell asleep. I fell asleep before the game and then woke up during the delay and then proceeded to watch 0 points. But I did obviously get to see obviously the ending and with Dallas having a chance to go and win it. But Dallas, I think your biggest takeaway from this game is that they're not going to be as bad as everyone thinks. We've talked about it in private before that it doesn't matter how bad you think the Cowboys are going to be. I don't think they're ever going to be you know horrendous like
mm,
2-15
mm.
bad. They're the Dallas Cowboys. They always find a way to win some games. Whether it's 7, 8, or 9 or whatever. I think they'll win a few more games than people expect from them. And this Eagles performance, I think, just doesn't really doesn't do anything either way. It doesn't make me feel more confident about them than I was coming into the season, but it also doesn't make me feel less confident about them either. It's a win that you expected them to win, and they won the game. So, um, moving on to the second pre-Sunday slate game that we had. Of course, this was the game that me and you watched together, Tom.
Mm.
Your Kansas City Chiefs going up against the LA Chargers. Chargers obviously built they got ahead early and they seemed to just never let the Chiefs get back into this game. The Chiefs were constantly chasing in this game. Is that what it felt like to you?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think there was a lack of urgency out of the gate. I think the Chargers kind of punched the Chiefs in the mouth, establishing quick 7-0, 10-0 lead. And usually that's when, that's exactly where the Chiefs want them because they love going down by 10 points and coming back. But it just didn't seem they had that sort of zip, that energy to start out the season, especially in the first half. It was very sloppy. They just weren't clicking on all cylinders. Obviously, it doesn't help when on the third snap of the game that your own player, Travis Kelce takes out Xavier Worthy, and then he's ruled out, initially questionable and then out for the rest of the game. Obviously, with the injury to Worthy. But I think the Chiefs kind of grew into the game. But I do think the Chargers played great in this game, especially Justin Herbert. We were both surprised by it. We thought it was going to be a very run-heavy centric, Marion Hampton, Najee Harris, hand the ball off, and kind of keep time of possession. But what it ended up being was Justin Herbert kept dropping back, and finding the open man. And there was a lot of open receivers because the Chiefs defense did not want to guard at the sticks. The amount of 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7s that I think the Chargers were 7 for 13 on third down, compared to the Chiefs 5 for 14. So they were much more efficient on third down, and that kind of proved throughout the game, really. I mean, the Chiefs defense made Quentin Johnson look like he was Jerry Rice or something. Um, and but one thing I will say about the Chiefs' performance, that I was happy about was in the second half. They had 3 drives, scored on all 3 of those drives. Mahomes had a very good game. He started to slow out the gate, but then kind of came on as the game went along and made some spectacular plays. One to Juju Smith-Schuster, where it was basically off the ground, and then another on 4th and 7, needing to convert and launching deep to Hollywood Brown, who could have had a walk-in touchdown, not for a tackle. But I think the Chiefs defense, really wasn't good in this game, to be honest. I think the Chargers took advantage of that. Um, as I said, they had wide open spaces, no one within 10 yards of them. Um, and fair play to the Chargers for doing that, with Keenan Allen coming back. He had a very good game, as did Quentin Johnson. So yeah, they diced up the Chiefs defense. And I know the Chiefs defense will have to bounce back, especially against Philadelphia next week. Um, but it ended up being a closer game than it probably should have been with the way that the Chargers played. One thing I'll point out with the Chiefs, one final thing as well, is the fire zone play that they had to end the first half. I thought that was really impressive. They could have been down 13-3, but they, get the operation off in time, 59-yarder from Harrison Butker to make it 13-6.
Yep.
And they did miss a 2-point conversion, or a no 1-point conversion even, an extra
Yep.
point that
As
could have tied them
as
up. So.
as Rich Eisen said, Harrison Butker, interestingly enough, far right. Um, yeah.
Hilarious.
So don't. Everyone kept saying there was a joke in there. I just thought that was quite a funny way he said it. Um, Justin Herbert in this game, as you mentioned, I mean, even at towards the end when the Chargers' game plan is run the clock out, get a couple of first downs, and they're still slinging it. He was still dropping back. He was still passing it. They clearly felt very confident in his arm. Something that last year it felt the opposite. He kind of felt like he was restricted a little bit last year within this offense. Kind of felt like they didn't really want him. They didn't dare him to make, let's say, maybe make some of the throws that he can make. Whereas in this game, out of the gate, as you mentioned, he came out slinging it over 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, 0 picks. Great day from Justin Herbert, showing what he can do. Um, of course, everyone he can do this every game this season, unless he does it in the playoffs. People are always going to have that against him, but continues to show why he is considered to be in that mix for that kind of top 5 to 8 quarterbacks in the NFL. Amari and Hampton was impressive in this game. Only actually had 48 yards, but it seemed like he had more. It seemed like it was a bit more effective than that um, on some of those runs that he had, especially on those second down runs that he had. But you mentioned it, obviously losing your number one receiver. Obviously, most of the game plan was probably centered around Xavier Worthy. You don't just use Xavier Worthy in the pass game. He's essentially an extension of your run game in the screen game as well. So obviously, him going out is a big loss, but it does somewhat amplify the concerns that I have with the Chiefs, which is just not an aging roster, because obviously you've got some of those younger receivers as well, but it feels like how do I say it? Not deteriorating, because that sounds bad, but do you know what I mean? It feels like they've just been unable to build around Mahomes the last 2 years, like some of these other teams have, like Philly has with Jalen Hurts, even like the Chargers have done with Justin Herbert. It just kind of feels like you're just relying too much on Mahomes to be Mahomes, and there's only so much Mahomes you can be to make the trifecta of Mahomes there. But you mentioned it, obviously going up against the Eagles next. We'll save that for the preview show, but just quick thoughts on it. How concerned would you be if obviously the Chiefs lose that game and fall to 0-2?
Yeah, there's definitely a level of concern, but at the same time, it's very early in the season. Yeah, I saw all the different things yesterday saying the Chiefs are last in the AFC West because all other teams got the win. But, week one tends to be a bit of an outlier, well, for some teams it doesn't, some teams it isn't. Obviously, the Chiefs are hoping that that's the case. They're going to have to play a lot better, especially on defense, to play well against the Philadelphia Eagles. They're coming in there with a chip on their shoulder after the way that they got manhandled in the Super Bowl. So I think they're going to come out with a game plan. I think they're going to be a lot more focused, a lot more ready to play. It didn't seem like they were the best prepared team on the field, which is never usually the case with an Andy Reid coach team. But I think they're gonna come in with a vengeance. It's coming into Arrowhead as well, so the Eagles have got come play us at home. And I'm hoping that we can have a bounce back game, and I back us to do that. But the Chiefs defense definitely needs to have some hard looks in the mirror and be like, we didn't play good enough in that game, and we got to play a lot better to win in this league. So.
Yeah, obviously sucked watching this game, and obviously third time now that we've seen one of our teams lose when watching it together. It always sucks watching your team lose, Tom, but as someone that does play fantasy football, yourself. I think there's a way that you could improve that experience, even if your team does lose, because, I know you enjoy playing fantasy football. It enhances the game day experience. What about putting a couple quid down on a game or two as well? Well, now you can do both because Fantasy Game Day, Tom, is the first and only NFL daily fantasy app made by UK fans for UK fans. Join a game, set your lineup to a budget, and compete against other fans to hopefully win some cash at the end of the day. If that sounds like your kind of thing, Tom, I know it is. Anyone listening, if that sounds like your kind of thing, head to their app. The link is in the description of this video. Sign up, and when you do, use the code HURDLE. That is HRDLE. Hurdle without the U, because Tom,
There's no hurdle the line without you.
exactly that. And you can get a free play worth £7.50 when you deposit and play for the first time. Again, that is the code HURDLE without the U. And remember, guys, 18 plus only. And please, please gamble responsibly. Moving on to the Sunday slate, Tom. I'm going to have to start with the last game of the Sunday slate because it was an absolute banger. Ravens, Bills, two of the best teams in the AFC, two AFC perennial contenders over the last few years. Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, two of the three, four best quarterbacks in the NFL, however you want to splice it up. We had an absolute banger in this one, Tom. 41-240 to start off the NFL season. Both quarterbacks played incredible. This was just one of those games that I'll admit, as a Browns fan, you watch and you just think, one day we'll be able to have a quarterback like that. Truly, just for any neutral, an incredible game to watch. Derrick Henry doing Derrick Henry things, Josh Allen doing Josh Allen things, Lamar doing Lamar things. Just an incredible game. Ravens, of course, built a lead in this game, a pretty sizable lead. They were up 15 with, I think, about 7 minutes left in
Four
this
minutes
game.
left.
4 minutes left in this game. I was doing the Bills a disservice. And the Bills were able to come back. Veteran kicker, Matt Prater, who was signed off the couch a couple of weeks ago, which any fan of a team that's, kicker missed their kick to win a game this year is probably going to be looking at that pretty pissed off. Cough, cough, me. To win the game, Tom, Bills take this one 41-40. What were your thoughts?
I mean, as you say, just a showcase of how incredible the NFL can be. I mean, I stayed up for this game. I didn't miss a second of this game. I was up till 4:30 in the morning this morning watching yesterday morning watching the game because it was just you couldn't take your eyes off it. When you got two quarterbacks of that quality playing at the height of their powers, that it was incredible. Um, and yeah, I think I'd start off with Lamar Jackson. I thought he was incredible in this game, rushing, passing. He was just a dominant force. It didn't seem like either defense could stop each other, to be honest, throughout the game. There was a couple of punts here and there. But in general, the offenses did what they wanted, and got the points. Obviously, the Ravens, as you say, established that 15-point lead with a big Derrick Henry run, and a beautiful touchdown from DeAndre Hopkins. I don't know if you saw that one-handed
Yeah.
catch. Prime time. DeAndre Hopkins there. Yeah, incredible catch. Just putting his hand out there. But then that's where things started going wrong for the Ravens. With the Bills driving down to score a touchdown. I mean, they had a crazy touchdown as well for Keon Coleman that bounced off different people and then he caught it. It was a kind of a juggling catch, but they all count. And with the Ravens leading by 8 at that point, with just under 2 minutes left, Derrick Henry then fumbles the ball after an incredible game that he'd had with two touchdowns, over 170 yards, I believe, as well on the ground. He'd been dominating that Bills defense, but he fumbles, they recover. then score a touchdown to make it a 2-point game. The 2-point conversion is stopped. The Ravens get the ball back. And then crucially, they've got a chance to ice the game. 4th and 3, they decide to punt instead of going for it. Obviously,
Soft.
at their 38-yard line. Which I think in hindsight, they probably made the wrong decision there. Like, I don't know why you don't trust Lamar Jackson, who's been running the ball incredible the whole game. I mean, he had one particular play where he's behind the line of scrimmage. He's got two different Bills defenders on him, manages to evade, escape, and then rush for 19 yards, which was insane. Typical, incredible Lamar Jackson in this game. It's almost like we're seeing a third evolution of how incredible he is. And Josh Allen especially in the fourth quarter was incredible. Two rushing touchdowns, one passing touchdown, three total touchdowns for him, over 250 yards in the fourth quarter to lead the Bills back. You never know when you're beaten in games like this. It doesn't matter what the scoreboard is. If you can, get the offense humming as they were, the Bills towards the end, then you've always got a chance in this game. But I think the Ravens will see it as an opportunity missed. Another fourth quarter lead blown, which has been a common theme for this Ravens team over since 2021. I believe they've blown the most fourth quarter leads. So it's a
Yeah,
theme that's
just to quickly
emerging.
inject there, Tom.
Mm,
John Harbaugh has blown 17 double-digit second half leads
mm,
with the Ravens. That is the most by any coach since 1991. He became the first coach. Well, they became the first team to lose a game where they scored over 40 points and had over 250 yards rushing. As you said, it has become a theme for this Ravens team. I have a theory. We obviously all know who their parent is,
mm.
the Cleveland Browns. We all know how genetics work. I think we must have passed down that kind of nonsense trait. I was about to swear then, the BS word. I think we passed down that BS trait to the Ravens, and they've get just a little taste of what us Browns fans get with their team with these fourth quarter blown leads. Because as you
I,
said, it's become a theme.
I think yeah, I do think it's obviously on John Harbaugh the amount that it's happened, but I also think the Ravens defense has got to take some sort of responsibility because they couldn't stop a cold towards the end of this game. Yeah, Bills Bills receivers were looking at Joe Alexander like, oh, I got him on toast. You know what I mean? In coverage towards the end of that game, they were just throwing his way. And Josh Allen was making it happen. He was incredible in this game. He was all world in this game. Early on in this game, Lamar Jackson was getting MVP chance in Buffalo. And then when Josh Allen, led his team to incredible comeback that they had, he went over and he said, I'm him, I'm the guy, and he was getting MVP chance. So just we love to see this level of quarterback play. It's probably the best game I've seen since the 2021 divisional round between the Chiefs and the Bills. Just excellent quarterback play, really. And it's just a shame that it was a fumble that led to the comeback, but incredible game nonetheless, and what a showcase for the NFL, really.
Well, yeah, that's football, Tom. As you said, these teams were pretty even in most of the stats. Both quarterbacks were amazing, but the one team that turned the ball over once, there was only one turnover in this game. It was the Ravens, and it obviously ended up costing them this game. You mentioned Josh Allen. He had 251 yards in the fourth quarter. That's more than 22 quarterbacks had this weekend. Obviously, not my quarterback, thankfully. But that is incredible. This was the true this game was like the yin yang of these two teams in terms of
Hmm.
you got the Bills. So I'll read you this: 389 passing yards for the Bills to 194 for the Ravens, and
Hmm.
then you look at the other side: 238 rushing yards for the Ravens, 108 rushing yards for the Bills. Ravens doing what they do best, running the ball. Bills doing what they do best, passing the ball. Josh Allen was incredible, as you said, did everything to deserve this game. But before we move on, I do just want to say one thing on Lamar Jackson because it's the same BS every single time. it just makes watching this game makes me laugh that we even that not we but that people had the conversations about whether we should move this guy to wide receiver
Mm.
and about whether or not this guy can throw a football. Just watch some of the throws that he made in this game. Does he go and throw a ball 45 times a game like a Josh Allen? No, because they don't need to do that. The guy is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. We need to stop with this whole anti Lamar Jackson agenda. That's just my 2 cents on it.
No, I totally agree. I think he is massively underappreciated by some people, to the point where it's like, oh, he's doing this, he's doing what he's doing is unprecedented. He already leads the in NFL history rushing yards for a quarterback. He's already done that, and he's 28. He's already surpassed Michael Vick massively. He's already got two MVPs. All he's got to do is go and win the big one now. But they've got every chance to do it. I think they will. I think they'll bounce back from this game. I think the defense had a rough showing, but at the same time, you can't really. I don't really fault the defenses because the offense was just too good. It was just the Ravens were too good, the Bills were too good, Josh Allen was too good, Lamar Jackson was too good, and even Zay Flowers. I wanted to give a shout out to him as well. Um, he had a touchdown, over 140 receiving yards as well. So yeah, have a day, Zay Flowers as well. But yeah, what
Yep.
a game.
The Ravens will obviously be looking to bounce back after this tough loss. And who's the next team on their schedule?
The Browns.
Cleveland Browns. Right. Good luck, boys. Um, Moving on to what I think was probably the most entertaining 6 p.m. game,
Mm,
1 p.m., of course, in the States, and that's the Steelers Jets game.
yeah,
Of course, two quarterbacks that essentially swapped teams this offseason with Justin Fields going from Pittsburgh to the Jets, and obviously Aaron Rodgers going from the Jets to Pittsburgh. Makes me ill even saying the word. Don't know if you saw much from this game, Tom. I, of course, had my eyes on this kind of in a distance while watching the Browns game. Caught up with the ending of this game after the Browns' humiliating loss, which we'll get onto. Um, but
yeah.
this was quite a fun one,
Oh,
back
very
and
good
forth.
fun. Back and forth.
Early on, it looked like Justin Fields was having a redemption game. Not to say that he played bad afterwards, but in terms of, early on, it looked like, wow, he's having a great game and the Jets are going to go. And at that point, it looked like they were going to maybe blow out the Steelers at certain points in this game. The Steelers were able to get back into this 17 points in the fourth quarter. Steelers got what it, us Browns fans call the usual Steelers BS calls that they always get in fourth quarters of games. Every single decision went their way. Everything that could have fell in their favor, which accumulated to a 60-yard field goal
Mm,
attempt at
yeah.
the end, which, of course, when you've just watched your team
Mm,
lose to a missed field goal, and then you watch your arch nemesis win by a 60-yard field goal, longest of Chris Boswell's career, by the way. Yeah, just rubbing salt in the wound a little bit there. But Aaron Rodgers threw 4 touchdowns in this game. He looked
yeah.
pretty decent,
He was very
unfortunately.
good in this game. Yeah, he was, as you said, it was a back and forth game. Just good play from both sides, really. Kind of a bit of a thriller going back and forth. Justin Fields had a really good game. He had three total touchdowns, I believe. Aaron Rodgers threw four. DK Metcalf had a good game on his Steelers debut. Um, Garrett Wilson had a good game as well. Breece Hall was one that I wanted to point out as well because the Jets didn't pick up his fifth year option. He's probably going to test free agency after the season. But he had a real bounce back game from last year where he struggled. He had over 140 yards, I
I
believe, as
say, not
well.
if he keeps playing like that, he won't be.
I know. Well, that's it. But he had a really good game for the Jets. And Aaron Rodgers did not mince his words after this game when he was interviewed about beating the Jets. He said, "I'm happy to beat Aaron Glenn, and
Everyone associated with the
everyone
Jets.
associated
Which
with the
can I just
Jets."
say? Which can I just say? I know I've been dubbed a slight Aaron Rodgers hater before,
Mm.
but shut up. Like seriously, just like you went to that team they literally folded to every single one of your ridiculous demands. They signed all of your mates. They brought in everyone that you wanted them to bring in. You like, yes, that they were crap, but so were you. You know what I'm saying? It's
Mm.
not pretending like Aaron Rodgers was good.
No, no, no.
And
But
no,
I
I'm
think,
not attacking you here,
mm,
Tom. I'm saying Aaron, but and
yeah,
then to like just in that situation, you just say, you just say, oh yeah, but I mean, you did. Don't make this a thing like, oh yeah,
mm,
they did me dirty. Aaron, you literally went there, made basically gutted the team, made them
mm,
sign all of your mates, and then left. Okay, you
mm,
can argue that Aaron Glenn wanted him to leave, but you really shocked by that. Like, I just think he's, just another example of Aaron Rodgers not being able to handle things like normal human beings can handle things with any form of grace and always having
mm.
to make everything about himself. But I'll leave the Aaron Rodgers rant for another day.
Yeah.
He was
But
good in this game, though. Don't get
yeah,
me
yeah,
wrong.
yeah, 100% he was. Like I feel like I get what you're saying, but I feel like if you play a game like that, you get four touchdowns. You can kind of talk a little bit, I guess, but like,
Yeah, but
I,
there's talking, there's being
mm,
confident, and there's being
mm,
disrespectful to a team
mm.
that basically did everything you wanted
Yeah,
them to
true.
do.
Yeah, they did heavily invest in
What more did
him,
you want them to
and
do, Aaron? They did
mm,
everything you wanted them to do.
yeah. But m moving on from that game, I'm trying to think of
Well,
what.
no, staying on that game at the
Oh yeah,
minute because I mean, it's the Steelers. I know it's obviously my arch rivals, but um, as I mentioned, Justin Fields and Garrett Wilson were cooking early. I'm there going, well, this is going to be great. I've got Justin Fields, Garrett Wilson, my Buckeyes cooking the Steelers. Aaron Rodgers, great. But as I said, like you can say I'm being a hater, but 300 and something, was it? More yards,
mm.
394 yards to 271 yards. The Jets had more yards than them. They had more efficiency, more first downs,
They should have won the game.
dominated the time of possession in this
Mm.
game. And the
Yeah,
Steelers, once again, as they always do in the Mike Tomlin era, find a way to win games.
yeah.
And I'll save the kicker point to another game, but go back and look at how many games that Chris Boswell has saved Mike Tomlin. I can tell you right now that
Mm.
record,
Mm.
that above 500 records would not still be standing if it wasn't for Chris Boswell. So is he the highest paid? I think he wanted a new contract this offseason. They need to make
Mm.
him the highest paid kicker in the league because he deserves it. He's got them out of a lot of stuff. But anyway, yeah, Steelers can't take too much from this because the Jets, everyone expected to be bad, but I think the Jets played better than I think a lot of people expected. And if you're a Jets fan, you should be somewhat encouraged by what you saw from that game.
I think so. I think especially I think you should be encouraged about what you saw from Justin Fields, to be
Yeah.
fair. I think, there's been a lot of vitriol around him, and he's not a winning quarterback and all this sort of stuff, and the dysfunction at the Bears and what have you. But he really came out with a point to prove in this game and played very well. So we'll have to see if that continues for the foreseeable future. Um, but yeah, that kind of recaps
Well,
that game.
I think the next game
Hmm.
that we should talk about maybe wasn't the most exciting game, but it was the game that we thought was going to be one of the most exciting games of the weekend. It's a game that I had, put on my thing. I watched this game. Packers Lions,
Hmm.
of course, at Lambeau Field. I mean,
Yeah.
what a way to start your season at Lambeau Field. Dan Campbell said it himself on the eighth day, the Lord made Lambeau. Um, this was a game that I think, as I said, a lot of us were expecting to be maybe closer to the Bills Ravens game, but instead we got it closer to the Jags Panthers game, shall we
Hmm.
say? Um, was not really close at any
No,
point in this game.
no.
Green Bay pretty much from the onset got the lead and didn't let the lead slip. Basically, kept their foot on Detroit, only allowing 13 points in this game.
Hmm.
What were your thoughts on the Packers? Obviously, um, with Parsons making his debut, and then obviously, what were your thoughts on the Lions with this being the first year under this kind of new Lions, shall we say? The actual the cool Lions now because they're winning. Um, under that era, obviously now changing their coordinators. What were
Mm.
your thoughts on both teams in this game?
I was very impressed with the Packers. I think they'd heard all the stuff in the off season about, the fact they were 1-5 in the division. They were a field goal away from being 0-6 in the division. And they wanted to defend their home turf, really. I think the Packers played really, really well in this game. They didn't really establish the run that much, but they didn't need to. It was all, Jordan Love was cooking in this game. I think he had 2 touchdowns. And they just came out the gate early and kind of just hit Detroit in the mouth, especially, very, very impressed with the Packers offensive line. They seem to dominate the Lions defensive line. And Michael Parsons, he did have an impact in this game. He had a sack. But he was used in bit parts, so it wasn't like a full debut for him. But for him to still have an impact and get a sack on Jared Goff, one thing we know about Jared Goff that we've both said is that when he's under pressure, he struggles. And the Packers had him under pressure often. Basically, he almost there was almost a safety as well. Rashawn Gary took him down just outside of the end zone. But the Packers dominated this game from start to finish. The Lions' electric run game was kind of shut down by the Packers in this game. Jahmyr Gibbs, usually such a big piece of that offense, was not as effective. Neither was David Montgomery, which meant they had to pass the ball. Um, and I believe the Packers had an interception right
Yeah,
in this game. Yeah. So yeah, but the Packers really, really impressed me in this game. Their defense, Jeff Hatley, I think is the name of the defensive coordinator. He deserves a lot of props for the way that they came out in this game and just kind of dominated from start to finish from both the offensive and defensive side of the ball. So
yeah. I mean, my biggest takeaway from this game, watching this game, is I don't think the offensive coordinator has much faith in Jared Goff
mm,
because they were just asking him to just do really, really simple stuff. There wasn't really many complex stuff that we've seen from this Detroit offense in the last few years. And I'm not just talking about the trick plays. That's trick plays. But in terms of it, just seemed like it was all short and medium. They just extended Jameson Williams.
mm,
That's your deep threat. I assumed you extended him because you want to carry on throwing the ball deep. And it almost felt like Jared Goff had stabilizers on almost to an extent that you'd expect from a young quarterback, but it's Jared Goff in his like
mm,
12th year. I don't know if that's because maybe it was just purely new offense. Let's just, not be too crazy. Maybe the offensive coordinator wants to, I don't know, but I'm just watching the game thinking, what is this game plan?
mm,
And then to abandon the run early, and obviously I know when as soon as you go down, you want to start passing, but when you've got that dynamic of a run attack that you have in Detroit, you don't want to be abandoning that run game until you absolutely have to. Only 22 carries in this game for 46 yards. As you said, they didn't have much success early. The Packers did well against that run attack early. But the benefit of having that double-headed back is that you can wear teams down. You can keep guys
mm,
fresh. So I I just didn't. I was just a bit confused by the Lions' game plan in this game. Again, it's week one. Hopefully for Lions fans that was just a kind of working out period, and they were just trying to get on the same page. Um, but if that continues going forward, then I'm going to just be confused because I just I'll be questioning the relationship between Jared Goff and the coordinator because as I
mm.
said, it just felt like they had the stabilizers
The
on him. But
one, the one bright spot for the Lions, even though the game was way out of reach at this point, was the touchdown catch by rookie Isaac Tesler with about a minute left to go. It was a beautiful one-handed catch.
yeah,
Going to be up there as one of the catches. It's going to be hard to top this season. Incredible catch, really. So that was the one bright spot I'd say for the Lions. But I would agree. I think they kind of abandoned the run game quite early on and they didn't come back to it. And a guy like Jahmyr Gibbs, he's better later in the game as well when the defense has been worn down and he can find those creases, those spaces, So that was a bit of a surprise for me. But I think Dan Campbell said it best. You know, they shot themselves in the foot a lot of times with penalties. And they just couldn't get that rhythm going. But fair play to the Packers. I picked them to win this game, and they did win this game. And I think they're going to be a force to be reckoned with this season. So,
Yeah, I mean, pressure on both teams in this game. Obviously, I think after the Parsons acquisition, everyone's picked the Packers to go to the Super Bowl. Pressure on the Lions in this game of obviously, as I mentioned at this earlier, changing both coordinators. Everyone wants to see what they can do. Um, Packers lived up to that kind of pressure. Lions didn't, but it's week one again. Let's see how we go throughout the season before we start making any declarative statements about this Lions team or any team really in that sense. Um,
yeah.
Moving on to the West Coast, Tom, a
Mm.
game that I'll be completely honest, I didn't see too much of. But I saw the 10-point comeback. I think it was 10-point comeback in the fourth quarter. San Francisco 49ers against the Seattle Seahawks.
This was a sloppy game. I'll tell you
49ers, my
straight from the
pick,
outset.
my pick to make the NFC Championship game, which
Mm.
surprised a lot of people. I think that threw a lot of people off. I had slightly unconventional thinking behind it. It wasn't the classic, I think they're the best team. I went slightly wayward with it. As you said, this was an odd game.
It was,
Um,
it was, it was, it was. I'll tell you what it was. It was two very good defenses, and then the offense is just trying to like figure it out. You know, the Seahawks offense, the Seahawks run game, they couldn't get a lot going. The 49ers, Christian McCaffrey had a very good game. He rushed and he caught, well, he only rushed for I think 69 yards or something like that, but he also had 7 catches as well for
he
79 yards.
he was somewhat limited in this game because
Yeah,
so he obviously was dealing with a calf injury. He didn't practice on Friday.
yeah.
So we weren't even sure if he was going to play this game. Obviously, big reason of why I picked the San Francisco 49ers. So Christian McCaffrey is going to be somewhat limited and still be effective.
Mm.
Then that's a good sign for the
Yeah, and
49ers.
the 49ers in this game, they kind of eked out with a win towards the end. Like it was not a pretty game at all. It was great defensive football. The Seahawks defense played pretty decent until towards the end where Reek Willen got taken advantage of a little bit. But Brock Purdy was not very good in this game. Just straight off the bat, he had 2 terrible interceptions. But he also did have a great play to Ricky Pearsall that helped set up the eventual winner for the 49ers. Also, losing George Kittle was massive for them.
Genuine question. Sorry, just a
Hmm.
genuine question. Have you ever seen Brock Purdy throw a non-bad interception? And I'm not saying he throws loads of interceptions, but like it feels like the only interceptions he throws are like really bad.
Yeah, I would agree. Like
He
he's
doesn't throw many. I'm not saying he's like, I'm
yeah.
not saying it like that, is it? But it feels like if he does every now and then
He
pop up
can
and
be
throw
risky
one.
with the ball though. He can try and fit it into windows where there is no window for it.
Yeah, yeah.
There was
Well, that's
one
because
in
he's used to
particular.
Kyle
There's one in
Shanahan having it
particular with the
teamed up.
Seahawks defense. There's 4 defenders around him, around the player who's trying to throw it to, and then it got picked off very easily.
Yeah.
But you know the 49ers recovered a fumble towards the end of this game that meant that they could go on and win this game. But I'm sure that Jake Moody does not feel too safe in the 49ers locker room because he missed a field goal as
Who's
well.
that? Former Michigan Wolverine, Jake Moody, was that?
Yeah, he was
Right.
he was very suspect in this game. But they escaped with the win. Fair play to the 49ers. Winning in Seattle isn't always easy.
Yeah.
But one of the big things that happened in this game is that George Kittle went out.
Yeah. Yeah.
He appeared to, injure his hamstring, and he was ruled out for the rest of the game, which is never
Yeah.
a good sign. Juwan Jennings went out in this game as well. So it was quite an attritional game. I think there was quite a lot of injuries
As
from both
as
sides.
we
But
normally see with the 49ers. But I just want to give one shout out to Ricky Pearsall,
so, yeah.
who, if any regular Hurdle the Line listeners listened to our season predict, was it no, not season prediction? I think it was the one before, but we talked about I can't even remember what the thing was, but my pick as a under the radar player was Ricky Pearsall. The reason being just because of all their wide receivers are injured.
Mm,
He obviously finished this game with over 100 yards. Jackson Smith in Jigba, Tom,
mm.
had 124 of the 150 yards that Sam Darnold had in this game, passing yards,
Unfortunately for him, though, as well, he
the
had
fumble.
some great. He had the fumble that then led to, the game-winning drive for the 49ers,
Yeah,
which was a shame because he did have a really, really good game. And he's going to be the focal point for this offense. I mean, Sam Darnold had 99 yards like midway through the third quarter, so he wasn't great
he
by any
was not great in
stretch.
this game.
But yeah, the 49ers kind of managed to eke out a win. And when you've got those tough divisional games, you want to get that win on week one, and they got it done. So
Yeah, Sam Darnold threw the ball four times over 15 yards. So he had four targets that were actually over 15 yards. Something that he was really good at last year was the deep ball. And every single one was to Jackson Smith and Jigba, because
yeah,
obviously everything else was just underneath with Cooper Kupp and their
mm,
tight ends and their running backs.
yeah,
But last thing on Seattle, if they're going to win games this year, they need to get that run game going.
yeah,
You can't rely on Sam Darnold's arm. You need to get that. You need to get that run game going. Then you can then obviously go into the play action, and that's where Sam Darnold can be dangerous. But if they can't get that run game going, then you know their offense is going to struggle this year. Moving on to what I would call the not as entertaining games of the week, Tom.
no,
Really,
wait, you're missing another exciting one. To be fair,
oh, that is right. I am missing one more exciting one.
yeah,
I felt bad calling it exciting, Tom, because I don't think Chapman would appreciate that.
no.
You calling his team losing by a missed field goal exciting, I think that's a little bit rude, to be honest with you. But you are correct, Tom. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Falcons, their divisional matchup to kick off week one, 23-20. Falcons, as I just mentioned, had a chance to tie this game with the field goal at the end. Missed the field goal. Young Ho Koo, is it Young Ho
Young Wei
Koo?
Koo.
Young Wei, not Young Ho. That would be a very odd way of pronouncing it. Um, he obviously missed the kick wide right, as a lot of these kicks were. They always seem to be. What were your thoughts on this game, Tom?
I thought the Falcons kind of tailed off towards the end of this game, but I think that also had to do with Drake London going out as well. But I think the Falcons came out really strong to start with. Bijan Robinson had a 50-yard touchdown to basically start the game. I think they went up 10-0. But then, as is the case with these games, the Buccaneers adjusted as the game went on. They pulled themselves back into it. And two touchdowns for rookie Mecca Buka, your Ohio State boy. Two touchdowns, 67 yards, including the one that put them on top in this game as well, right towards the end. But it was a really good game, to be honest. Very back and forth. Baker Mayfield played well. Michael Penix played really well. He had one move where it looked as though he fumbled it, but he managed to stretch out and for a touchdown, which was incredible that he didn't touch. He didn't. His knees didn't touch the ground. Um, but yeah, the Falcons probably should have won this game. In all honesty, they seem like the better team, but then the Bucks kind of found their way back into the game. And then Drake London, who was having a decent game, he went out with the injury. But Carl Pitts had a good game as well. But I was really impressed with Michael Penix in this game. Bijan Robinson, he was a beast in this game as well. And they managed to limit Bucky Irving somewhat. But the Buccaneers do as they do, and they got the field goal to win the game, and the Falcons missed their chance to tie it up. So which has been a bit of an issue for Young Wei Koo over the last couple of seasons. Very good kicker in the league, but he's missed a couple of those crucial kicks in end of game situations. So have to see how that is handled moving forward. But a very good back and forth game, really.
Yeah, I mean, Baker Mayfield given the full Baker Mayfield experience, 17 for 32, missed quite a lot of throws in this game, but also made some of the throws that he needed to make. Just the full Baker Mayfield experience. Amita Ibuka, four catches, two touchdowns. With him, Garrett Wilson, Jackson Smith in Jigba this weekend, Marvin Harrison obviously with a touchdown as well. Jamar Chase had about 20 yards. I think Malik Neighbors had about 70 yards, no touchdowns. I think those guys are proving that Ohio State is wide receiver U, not LSU. But yeah, just tough loss for the Falcons. Similar to my Browns, they always seem to find a way to lose games in pretty painful ways. And as my Browns they continued that in week one this week. Obviously, a game that they're going to want back. But as I mentioned before, that Tom, the maybe not so more exciting games. We're not going to spend as long on these. I will of course start with you know, maybe not exciting, but it depends what your definition of exciting is, I suppose. If you like watching not very good offense, then Cleveland Browns versus the Cincinnati Bengals is coming right up, just what you need. I won't go too much into it. Obviously, I do that on other channels, but Cleveland Browns just finding new ways to lose football games. Very familiar feeling in Cleveland. I mean, we are now 3-24-1 record wise in week one games since coming back from reactivation in 1999. So we are very familiar with this. We're used to this. By the way, two of those three wins came back to back before this season. Sorry, before last season. So that was one win in like 20 years. That's how bad it was. As I said, we come up with new ways to lose. We should have won this game. We put ourselves in position to win this game. Browns defense, little bit shaky to start. The opening drive, they were running a little bit at Alex Wright, bullying him a little bit. It felt like they were running more because when you actually look at the stats, Chase Brown only had 43 yards on 21 carries. And he was the only running back they played in this game. He's the only one that got a carry. So
He also got a
they,
touchdown, didn't he?
yeah, so they looked quite a little bit shaky early on. They gave up the two touchdowns in the first half, but then they just went full Cleveland Browns 2023 defense, put the absolute clamps on. They allowed 7 net yards. Let me repeat that. 7, that's just singular, not 7-0, 7 net yards of total offense to the Bengals in the second half, and we still lost this game. The defense did everything they needed to do. The offense, whilst struggled, especially in the second half. I mean, the first half, Tom, we had 3 offensive drives. One of them was 9.5 minutes long, which we scored a touchdown from. Bengals went 30 minutes before their last offensive snap on their first drive to their second snap. So three drives, 2 scores, not bad. Not quite as good in the second half. 6 drives, 1 score, a punt, turnover on downs, 2 interceptions. Neither interception was on Joe Flacco. Go watch the
Yeah,
highlights. I'm
yeah, yeah.
telling you that
Literally.
when I say we're cursed, I'm not
Mm,
just saying it.
mm.
You see the ball levitate. There's some like there's some unnatural force that levitates that ball out of the receiver's body up into the guy's hands. I'm telling you, go and watch it. There's something going on here. Just incredibly unlucky. But in the end of the day, when push came to shove, the Browns defense with one of the most incredible sequences I have ever seen, not just from the Cleveland Browns, but from any defense, needing to get the ball back to their offense. The Cleveland Browns, Myles Garrett in particular, first down, sack. Well done, Myles. That's a good start. 2nd and 16. Second down, Myles Garrett sack again. Back to back, Myles Garrett sacks. Wow. Okay, we backed them up to their like 5 yard line now. Let's just get them. Let's just get out of this third down, get the ball back. No, they've not had enough yet. They're still hungry. Another sack. 3 consecutive sacks on 3 consecutive snaps with Isaiah McGuire. Even though Miles pretty
Can I
much
say
got there
that
as
really
well.
quickly?
Yeah, although Miles got there as well, Isaiah McGuire was actually credited with that sack. So as I said, they did everything they could. The offense then got the ball, good field position, and put the team in position to win the game. They did everything they needed to do. Up steps Andre Schmidt, the Browns' new kicker, the kicker that every Browns fan begged the team to go with instead of Dustin Hopkins. Misses the kick after he had already missed an extra point, which was the only reason the game was 16, 17. Otherwise, it would have been tied. And the Browns lose this game. They do actually get the ball back, but again, they had another unnatural interception where it hits the receiver's hands and some force comes and levitates the ball into the guy's hands. But finally, just to finish on it, because any Browns fan listening might be feeling pretty crappy about this game. Yes, it sucks losing, as Browns always do, but there are a lot more positives to take away from this week one loss than most week one losses the Browns have seen in a very long time. The Browns rookie class were fantastic in this game. Harold Fanning lined up at tight end, in the slot, in the backfield, and at quarterback. He took a direct snap in the Wildcat. He was lined up everywhere. He was making plays everywhere. Finished the game with 67 yards, I believe. 7 receptions, which tied Tyler Warren and another guy. Most receptions by a rookie tight end in week one all time. He was incredible. Dylan Sampson looked twitchy, looked explosive, especially in the passing game. And then on defense, Tom, I've been saying all offseason to you about Carson Schwessinger. What does he do? He comes out, bearing in mind in his first ever regular season game in the NFL, he is wearing the green dot. He is the signal caller on the defense as a rookie, and he finishes the game with the most tackles out of any Cleveland Brown, 8 tackles, including a tackle for loss, which was one hell of a hit on third down to get obviously the ball back. He was incredible in this game as well. Mason Graham showed some good flashes as well. So lots of obviously bad to take from this game, guys, but there is some good as well.
Right, enough about the Browns, man. You can
you don't
talk
want
about the Browns on
to.
your channel.
You don't want to talk about the Browns, Tom.
But
What do you mean?
one
No,
one game that I wanted to highlight as well is the kind of dud games that we're going to go through now was a very impressive performance from the Indianapolis Colts, in particular Daniel Jones. Bringing some stability back to the Indianapolis Colts. I mean, I think he's the only quarterback since it was like 1960 or something like that that has scored on 7 straight possessions. Every possession that the Colts had in this game, they scored points, which was incredible. And it's something that the Colts have needed. They've needed that life on offense. He's just a more stable quarterback than Anthony Richardson. You're not going to get the highs, but you're also just not going to get the lows. Well, you will get some lows, but he played very well in this game against a terrible Miami Dolphins team.
I was gonna say
They
how
were
much of
like
this.
obviously, yeah, no, but you have to give the Colts credit with
Yeah,
the
of
way that they
course.
played. But the Dolphins didn't look like they should be there. They looked atrocious.
They look like the worst
Um,
team in the NFL.
they went, yeah, the Colts went up and down the field on them numerous occasions. I think they were down 27-0 or 22-0 at some point. They managed to get a score on the board with Devon Achan. Tua Tagovailoa looked absolutely lost out there. He was seeing ghosts. He fumbled the ball. He threw interceptions. He was not good in this game. Tyreek Hill was expressing his frustration on the sideline. It just looks like it's all going wrong in Miami, and I would not be surprised to see Tyreek Hill get traded before the trade deadline. Come on, Chiefs, get him back. But fair play to the Colts, fair play to Daniel Jones for going out there and having a very successful game, even if it was against a terrible Miami Dolphins team that, yeah, as you said, it could be and looked like it was the worst team in the NFL on this week as well. But
Well,
yeah, some of the other games not
the,
so good.
my
Rams,
only
Texans,
just to
but
quickly stay on the Dolphins.
yeah.
Um, my only takeaway, well, not my only takeaway, but I would say go and slab the Mike McDaniel first head coach to be sacked prop bet. Definitely something that you want to go and do because I don't see him lasting very long. They look like the worst team in the NFL. Of course, it's only week one. They could definitely bounce back next week and we could be having different conversations, but they were truly atrocious, both on offense and defense. They could not do anything. Not even they couldn't even make tackles. It was
No.
bad. Really, really bad. Um, Yeah, not really too much to say about that. The Colts look great, but how much of I think in a couple of weeks we're going to know more about this performance because we'll know more about the Dolphins and we'll know more about the Colts and we'll know whether or not this was just the Colts beating up on a very, very, very bad Dolphins team,
Yeah.
or if it was actually, a sign that the Colts are actually going to be a frisky team to play this year. Um, Raiders Patriots, Tom.
Mm.
Did Seattle make a mistake? Did they did they swap their quarterback for a worse quarterback?
I mean,
Geno Smith was
he was
balling.
he was slinging the ball in this game. He played very well in this game. I did pick the Raiders to win this game as well. I just
So did
felt
I.
that under the regime now with Pete Carroll, I just think that they're just going to be a much more disciplined team than they were before, and that proved in this game. The Patriots didn't play very well in this game. Drake May didn't play very well in this game. And Geno Smith outperformed him. He played very well in this game. Jacoby Myers had a decent amount of receptions. Brock Bowers had 10 receptions, over 100 yards. He went out with an injury, so we'll have to see what his status is in line for next week. But he proved he's still, had a great game. And fair play to the Raiders for winning this one. I picked them to do it, and it just looked like with the Patriots that they just don't have the weapons that they need. They just don't have the pass catchers. They got Demario Douglas, but
What did we say all off season? What did we say
I
all off
mean, we've
season?
been saying it, but it came to the fore. It did. And Trevion Henderson had a quiet game as well after being very impressive in preseason. So the Patriots have a lot to build off. But fair play to the Raiders for winning this one. Another AFC West team that got a win was the Broncos, and this was a pretty atrocious game, to be honest with you. I was watching it. Um, Bo Nix was not very good in this game at all. He was very inaccurate, especially
I'll,
on.
I'll be completely honest. I think the only thing we need to say about this game is two not very good quarterbacks going up against each other.
Yeah, I would say that. I would just say too. Yeah, I would say that the Broncos defense got them the win in this game. But and I did see some promising signs from Cam Ward.
Yeah, let
A
me give
lot,
him
a
some
lot.
credit.
I,
He is
I want to
going
give
up.
him some credit because he made some great plays, but the receivers just couldn't catch, to be honest. Like there was a couple drops that were bad. But either way, yeah, two not very good quarterbacks in this game. And then finally I think it's fine. Oh no, then we had the Saints Cardinals. The Cardinals edged out that one. Kyler Murray, as you say, Marvin Harrison had a touchdown, which was good for them. And Trey Benson had a good performance on the ground for them. The Commanders beat the Giants in a very forgettable game. They managed to eke out the win. And then the Rams beat the Texans thanks to their incredible defensive front. They were all over CJ Stroud in this game. Unfortunately, Derek Stingley went out with an injury early on, which was a real shame because he was All Pro last year, had a very, very good year. But the Rams defense proved that they were hit they're a defense to be reckoned with, managing to pull out this game. So and I think though no, we had the Jags Panthers as well, but
Yeah, just
whatever.
just my last few thoughts on those few games.
Mm.
We spoke about the Giants. They're the only way they're going to be good this year if that defensive line is good. They had the fifth lowest pressure rate out of any team this week. So not a great start from that defensive line. Um, what game did you say after that? The Titans Broncos. I mean,
Mm.
both of our rookie of the year picks have not been very good this weekend. Tom Ashton Gentry was pretty bad in his game. I think 18 carries for 29 yards or something like that. Obviously, did have
At
the
least he had a
touchdown.
touchdown,
Did
but
have
that
the
was it.
touchdown, but he wasn't great. But I will give more grace to Cam Ward. A lot of people are obviously crapping on him. He went up against arguably the best defense in the NFL in one of the hardest places to play in the NFL in Denver in his first NFL game on a team that has no weapons. Let's maybe give him, a little bit of slack and at least see, at least see one more game before we start making any declarative statements. And finally, seeing as we are, we love pushing agendas, Tom. I did notice in that Patriots game that their tackle they drafted at 4 was getting a little bit beat, and they did obviously end up giving 4 sacks up. And I noticed that my offensive tackle one, Armand Membu, was absolutely dominating TJ Watt all day yesterday. Had him in an absolute spinner. I mean, TJ Watt looked like, if I had told you that that guy was earning 40 million a year and you just watched that tape, wow, generally you'd have probably rang the police and accused him of robbery because Armand Membu had him in an absolute nightmare. Um, that's why you take the tackles with the long arms. I'm joking. I'm joking. I'm joking. But guys, I think that's everything. Tom, have I missed anything? Have you missed anything?
Yeah, so the final thing we wanted to do now that we've gone through all the recap of the games is we're just going to do a slight preview of the Bears Vikings game that will be
Tonight.
taking place tonight.
Yeah.
So
Well, I could be very quick on this one.
yeah,
Um, if JJ McCarthy's good, Vikings win. If JJ McCarthy's not good, Vikings lose, and they're probably they're not obviously going to look for another quarterback. But I think this game just comes down to JJ McCarthy. Just generally, if I think their season comes down to JJ McCarthy, if he can just play well enough within that offense and well enough within that scheme, they're going to win 10 games at least. And the Bears, let's hope that Caleb Williams in year 2 under Ben Johnson can be a lot more exciting, and let's hope that Bears offense is a lot more exciting. But it is an interesting game, one that I think could produce a lot of points.
yeah, I agree. I think I'm picking the Vikings to win this game. But the main thing I'm thinking is obviously they got Justin Jefferson, but TJ Hawkinson, and then having Adam Thielen back, a veteran, wily veteran, who's been in that scheme, knows what he's doing. Had his homecoming back in Minnesota. So I think he might be a factor in this game tonight. Yeah, I'm going to pick the Vikings to win this game, but I think it's going to be a good game. I think there's going to be some points in this game.
Where's the game to try? Tell you what, why not? Just to be different, I'm going to pick the Bears.
There you go. So
Go, let's go, Caleb
Ollie's picking the
Williams.
Bears.
Let's
I'm
go,
picking the
Ben
Vikings.
Johnson.
As he said, it all rests on what JJ McCarthy's gonna do in this game. And then with the Bears, it's resting on Caleb Williams coming back and having a better second year, especially with Ben
It,
Johnson at the helm.
Interestingly enough, Tom,
Mm.
the Vikings are only 1.5 point favourites in this game. I thought that would be a little bit higher,
Is
to be
it
honest with you.
is it at Soldier Field or is
It's
it?
at Soldier Field, yeah.
Oh, okay, okay, that makes sense. Why it's like
Yep,
not.
you can still get tickets, guys, as low as $233, according
There
to
we go.
Google.
There we go. But
But do we
that
want to
more than
preview
shows
Thursday
that.
night? I don't.
Yeah,
What's Thursday night's game
Thursday night is the Commanders
versus the Packers?
versus the Packers.
Packers win. There we go.
I
That's my
think,
preview.
yeah, I agree. I think Packers are going to win this game as well. I think that the defense played so well against the Lions. I think they're going to play better against the Commanders. I think the Commanders defense is susceptible to the Packers passing game, especially with all the receivers that they have. But the Commanders are going to hope that they can get Terry McLaurin more involved than he was in week 1 as well. And it's at Lambeau as well.
Yeah,
So
that's
I
the
think the
Packers win. Yeah,
Packers should
they
handle business with this one. But hopefully it should be an exciting game between two
yeah, two
quarterbacks.
young quarterbacks. Yep. I mean, the Packers defense is pretty well suited to go up against a running quarterback. They've got some pretty athletic guys on that D line and in that linebacker room as well. So yeah,
And I'm
I
pretty
think I think
sure
the
that Michael Parsons is going to make an impact in this game.
yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah. I think the Packers. I'll pick the Packers for that one. I'm not going to be different on that one and go with the Commanders. But guys, that has been our week 1 review. Um, please, if you enjoy what we do here, what we do on the review show, what the amazing crew over on the preview show do, what all of the amazing crews across all of the AEW network. No, sorry, what is it?
AAW Network.
AAW, not AEW. Incredibly sorry, producer Fletch, for that one. But if you do enjoy it,
Unless you want to get into
guys,
wrestling, then you want AEW.
is that yeah? I think that is wrestling. Well, if you like wrestling, then go check that out as well. But not sure if it's below me or below Tom or below the thing that where the producer is. Go and check in the description. You can find all of the links to see all of the podcasts, all of the amazing, hosts of the shows, all the people involved with the AAW network. You can find all of that there. And also, one last time, Fantasy Game Day, as I mentioned, if you do like having a little flutter, but also having some fun with it as well, check the links in the description. See where you can use our code HURDLE, that is hurdle without the U, because Tom,
There is no hurdle the line without you.
thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, have an amazing rest of the day. Have an amazing week. But most importantly, Tom, hurdle that week
First
one.
weekend of the NFL season.
Hurdle that week one. Have a great day,
Hurdle that
guys.
week one.